Imagine you're in a meeting or conversation and feel the urge to defend every choice you make. You say, I did X because of Y, and also Z, just so you know. Sound familiar? This habit of over-explaining might come from a good place, but it immediately weakens the impact of your words. The more you scramble to justify yourself, the more authority slips away, and the people listening can sense it. Over-explaining, giving excessive justifications for your decisions or opinions, can undermine your authority and confidence. In this video, we'll explore why people fall into the over-explaining trap, how it inadvertently erodes trust and respect, and what happens when you replace that fear with clarity. By the end, you'll see how saying less can actually make your message more powerful, and you'll learn strategies to communicate with calm authority, self-respect, and internal clarity. Over-explaining often starts from anxiety or people-pleasing. Psychologists note that it's a habit response to guilt or fear. We blurt out a perfect explanation in hopes of avoiding conflict or disappointment. In other words, you might believe you owe everyone a satisfying reason for your actions. This pattern is deeply tied to fawning and the belief that saying no or being direct isn't acceptable without a long backstory. It's no surprise many emotionally intelligent, empathetic people struggle with this. For example, author Justin Bariso admits, as a high-empathy person, I tend to worry a lot about how others think and feel. You might find yourself apologizing in advance or over-explaining simple decisions like turning down an invite. The intention is to be polite and understood, but beneath it lies a fear of being judged or causing upset. Gender conditioning can play a role here. Research on workplace behavior shows that men and women over-explain for different reasons. Men often do it to assert authority, whereas women tend to over-explain when they fear being misunderstood or dismissed. If you're a woman who's been talked over or underestimated, you might unconsciously add extra context and justifications to make sure you're taken seriously. And if you belong to a marginalized group, you might over-explain as a strategy to prove your credibility in an environment where you don't feel fully accepted. In all cases, the root issue is the same: a lack of psychological safety. When we don't feel truly heard or trusted, we try to earn that trust by piling on words. Ironically, over-explaining can feel like being on eggshells. One leadership coach described it as the verbal equivalent of walking on eggshells. You're so afraid of being misunderstood or criticized that you wrap your message in layers of cushioning. You double-check every phrase, add backstories, and cover every angle of an argument to preempt objections. It's exhausting. This hyper-awareness often stems from self-doubt and environments that punish mistakes. If you've worked or lived in a culture where speaking up got you interrupted or judged, over-explaining became a survival mechanism. Over-explaining isn't actually about giving more clarity. It's about easing your own fear. It comes from the internal fear of not being enough, not clear enough, not likable enough, not convincing enough. We add words to feel safer. Understanding this psychological trigger is the first step to breaking the habit. How over-explaining erodes your authority. Unfortunately, all that extra explaining does the opposite of what you intend. Instead of making people understand you better, it makes them question you more. When you give long justifications for a simple decision, people stop focusing on your actual point and start noticing your doubt. As one life pro tip puts it, when you give long justifications for simple decisions, people start focusing on your doubt instead of your point. Clear and calm statements earn more respect than extra details. In other words, the more you try to prove your case, the less confident you appear. Think about how true leaders or people you respect speak. Do they defend every choice with a barrage of reasons? Probably not. Confident communicators state their thoughts or decisions calmly and succinctly, and they let that stand. If you ask for an explanation, they'll give one, but they don't preemptively grovel for approval. By contrast, over-explaining signals insecurity. It's like you're telling the listener, I'm not sure you'll believe me, so here's every possible reason I might be valid. Instead of conveying certainty, you accidentally broadcast self-doubt. Over-explaining not only weakens others' perception of you, it can also transfer discomfort to them. Studies in emotional intelligence note that this habit kills your confidence and can actually make the listener anxious because now they feel they must soothe your feelings or validate you. For example, if you apologize profusely or overjustify a boundary, the other person might start saying, "Oh, it's okay, really," meaning your excess explanation put them in the position of comforting you. This dynamic erodes the natural respect that a simple, firm answer would have earned. Crucially, explaining too much destroys the aura of authority. Authority often comes from a sense of trust and certainty. People trust those who appear sure of themselves. If you state your boundary or decision in a straightforward way, it suggests you're confident and mean what you say. On the other hand, if you tack on multiple explanations, it suggests you don't fully trust your own decision. So why should they? As communication experts wisely note, most people aren't actually demanding a big explanation. They're looking for certainty. They want to feel that you know what you're doing. By giving them a concise answer, you signal, "I've got this." By over-explaining, you unintentionally signal, "I'm not sure about this myself." Finally, consider the time and energy aspect. In a work setting, someone who constantly over-explains may be perceived as less efficient or even irritating. It can undermine your professionalism. Coworkers might start tuning out or losing patience, which is the last thing you want when you're trying to make an impact. It creates an impression that you need permission or approval for your ideas, rather than projecting the quiet confidence of someone who stands by their choices. In personal relationships, friends or partners might start feeling that anytime they ask you something, it becomes an overly fraught discussion, which can make them less likely to take what you say at face value. Bottom line, over-explaining turns your strength into a weakness. It dilutes your message, drains your confidence, and teaches others to trust you less. Authority isn't about domineering or speaking the most words. It's about speaking the right words from a place of inner certainty. From fear to clarity, the turning point. If you recognize yourself in these patterns, you might also recognize the frustration and emotional toll it brings. Maybe you've walked away from conversations kicking yourself, thinking, "Why did I go on and on? I should have just said the simple truth." You might feel tired of being misunderstood, despite all your efforts to explain. This can boil over into a pivotal moment, a sort of 2 a.m. clarity, when you're alone with your thoughts and finally honest with yourself. Picture this. It's late. You're replaying a scenario in your head. You bent over backwards explaining a personal decision, and the other person still didn't get it or didn't react the way you hoped. Then a realization dawns on you in that quiet moment. No amount of explaining will make someone understand or accept me if they're not willing to. You realize the approval you're chasing may never come, and here's the kicker. You don't actually need it. This is the moment where fear breaks and clarity wins. The fear of "they'll think I'm selfish" or "they'll be upset" cracks under the weight of a new clarity. I have to respect my own decisions, even if others don't. That turning point is often emotional. You might feel a rush of liberation and grief at the same time. Liberation in deciding, "I am done over-explaining myself," and grief over the energy you've wasted and the respect you haven't been giving yourself. It's powerful to finally see that you are allowed to just say what you mean. As the saying goes, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. The people worth having in your life or team won't require an elaborate defense for your needs or choices. In this aha moment, you start to rebuild your communication on a new foundation, internal clarity and self-respect. Instead of operating from, "I'm afraid they'll misunderstand me," you shift to, "I'll be clear, and that is enough." This doesn't mean becoming abrupt or uncaring. It means replacing fear with trust. Trust in yourself and in others' ability to handle the truth. You realize that explaining beyond what's necessary isn't kindness or thoroughness. It's actually a form of fear. And when you let that fear go, what's left is simple honesty. For many, this turning point might come after a particular incident. Maybe you hit a wall where someone still questioned you even after all your explanations, and you thought, "I might as well have said nothing extra. The result would be the same." Or a mentor/friend might have pointed out, "You don't have to justify yourself so much." However it happens, it's the moment you decide to reclaim your voice on your own terms. It's the internal shift where you give yourself the permission that you've been seeking from others. The fear breaks, clarity wins. And with that clarity comes a new kind of authority, one that isn't bestowed by others' approval, but earned by your own self-respect. Communicate with clarity and self-respect. So, what does communicating with clarity and authority look like in practice? It's not about being brusque or cold. It's about being clear, calm, and grounded. Here are a few strategies to help break the over-explaining habit and replace it with confident communication. Lead with your point, not a preamble. The next time you're about to give an explanation, pause and ask yourself, what's the core message I need to get across? Start with that. You can always add context if asked, but by leading with the main point, you signal confidence. For instance, instead of launching into a lengthy story, state your decision or stance plainly. Remember, clear communication doesn't require persuasion or prose. Often a single sentence will do. When you trust that your needs and decisions are valid, you'll find that fewer words are usually more effective. Embrace the power of no without padding. If you struggle with saying no, practice the simple formula. Thank the person. Give your clear no and perhaps a kind word, nothing more. For example, thanks for thinking of me, but I won't be able to make it. You'll notice this one sentence can suffice. It might feel too short at first if you're used to justifying, but as Dr. Nicole Lepra explains, people actually appreciate short, concise answers and confidence in saying no creates respect. If an explanation is truly needed, give one honest sentence and resist the urge to pile on excuses. Your no does not require an apology or a novel. Honor it, and others will too. Use declarative language and drop the qualifiers. Pay attention to softening phrases or rambly qualifiers in your speech. Phrases like, I just think maybe, I was wondering if perhaps, can undermine your message. Practice making declarative statements that are still polite but firm. E.g. say, I need more time to finish this task, instead of, I'm sorry, I just need maybe a bit more time, if that's okay. The content is the same, but the tone is completely different. Speaking in statements shows you stand behind your words. You're not asking for permission to have your opinion, you're giving your opinion. This is a form of self-respect in action. When you say what you mean calmly and directly, you protect your time and energy, and you demonstrate that you respect your own voice. Leverage silence and pauses. This might sound counterintuitive if you fear awkward silence, but a pause is a powerful tool of confident communication. After you've said your piece, stop. Don't rush to fill the space with more justifications or does that make sense? Fillers. Silence speaks confidence. It lets your words sit and signals that you're not afraid to let the other person react. In fact, pauses give your words weight and allow others to truly process what you've said. Try it in your next conversation. State your thought, then quietly hold your ground. You may be surprised at how positively people respond when you don't immediately dilute your statement with extra commentary. Set boundaries on explanations. Not every decision needs a backstory. Start noticing where you tend to over-explain. It could be in emails, giving excuses for personal choices, or in meetings, and practice reducing it by 50%. For example, if you wrote a 4-sentence justification in an email draft, try cutting it to 2 sentences. Often those extra details aren't necessary. As one professional learned, providing as little information as possible up front usually turns out fine. People rarely ask for the follow-up details you thought they needed. And if they do, you can address it then. Over time, you'll prove to yourself that the sky doesn't fall when you don't over-explain. In fact, you'll notice more positive outcomes. Others respond with acceptance, meetings move faster, and you feel more at ease. Each of these practices builds the muscle of confident, clear communication. It will likely feel uncomfortable at first, even scary. That's normal. You're essentially breaking an old fear-based habit. But with each small success, you'll start to feel a growing sense of empowerment. Clarity gets easier with repetition. Consider it a form of self-care. Every time you resist over-explaining, you conserve energy that would have been spent second-guessing yourself. You're retraining both yourself and others to value your words. Over time, speaking with self-respect will feel less like a bold act and more like your new normal. Embrace the power of clarity. Explaining yourself less is not about being arrogant. It's about owning your voice. When you stop over-explaining, you're silently telling yourself and the world, I believe in what I'm saying. That belief is contagious. It commands respect. Authority isn't bestowed by how many words you use, but by the conviction behind them. By practicing concise, confident communication, you'll notice people start responding to you differently, with more trust, deference, and attentiveness. Even more importantly, you will feel different. Instead of that sinking feeling after oversharing, you'll feel a sense of calm finality. I said what I needed to say, and that's enough. I encourage you to reflect. Where do you tend to over-explain in your life? Is it at work, with family, with friends? Pick one small instance this coming week to experiment with saying less. It could be as simple as responding to a request with, sorry, I can't this time, without the added because sentence. Notice what happens. Chances are the world will keep turning and the person will accept it. No drama, no interrogation. That little moment will prove to you that clarity works. Your voice deserves to be heard and respected as is. By giving fewer, clearer reasons, you're actually giving your words more power. It's a show of self-respect and an invitation for others to respect you too. So the next time you catch yourself rambling into an explanation, take a breath. Remember that internal clarity you have, the confidence that your decision is valid. And remember that you don't need to earn anyone's permission to stand in that truth. As the 2 a.m. code philosophy whispers, there comes a moment when your fear breaks and your clarity wins. Embrace that moment. Speak your truth with calm certainty. In doing so, you'll find that authority was within you all along, and it grows every time you choose clarity over fear. Call to action. If this message resonated, try this clarity challenge in your own life. Next time you're about to send a lengthy justification or launch into a detailed excuse, stop at one sentence. Deliver the core message and let it stand. It might feel bold or uncomfortable, but watch what happens. You may just experience a new kind of respect coming your way from others and from yourself. Clarity is your superpower. Use it.